Thank you. Anyway, I'll start again. So our workshop today is on practical visioning, and Baugh is presenting. Pierce is the founder of Strategic Database Systems and a lifelong creator and student of the creative process. He's been the lead architect and designer of countless systems for companies such as, I'll put the most important one first since it's Collaborex. No, and then after that, there were a few other places like Deloitte, Disney, Crayola, Casio, and the NFL. And today, through his company, Strategic Database Systems, he is focused on helping thought leaders bring their vision to life. And he has created for Collaborex an amazing member, facilitator, administrative portal that really put my vision to life. Pierce, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jonathan. It's great to see everybody and see some familiar and a couple of new faces. So it's awesome that have you all here today. I'm so happy that everybody's joined, and we're going to get into some interesting stuff today. One other person I'll introduce it's here is Tyler, who is actually you've not met before, but he's my son, and we're going to be doing some work together in the technical space, and it's pretty exciting with what he's getting into on the AI front and some workflow stuff for businesses. So it's going to be exciting new partnership for us. So anyway, just let you know that's who's here. That's the kid in the room. So today we're going to talk a little bit about visioning, creative visioning, flow states, what that's all about, and how we can sort of take this process of this magical process of creating and go back and forth between a more sort of artistic application and how that can apply to your business side and your creativity in your business. And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to go through a series of some slides. We're going to do a little bit of interactive work, and then sort of have it open for questions. So without further ado, I'm going to jump over to the slides. Let's see if we can. Okay. Everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, great. That's the title.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it? I'm actually presenting this on Figma for any those of you who don't know Figma, but Figma is a graphic design tool that's being used by great majority of the designers these days. So Photoshop has been replaced by Figma, which is sort of all things to all people. So a little bit about me. Early on in my career, I worked with Deloitte. I was a manager of HRIS there. And during that time, one of the first big systems I created was something called HR Discovery. And that system was a way of getting data from the mainframe down to PCs to the HR directors and managers across the country. One of the things that nobody could have conceived of it, because what I did sort of blew everybody's minds. I took a 9-track tape, which is a big reel-to-reel tape, and found a way to get that tape translated from a very archaic mainframe format and in EBCDIC, if anybody knows what that means, into the ASCII character set and turned into a relational database, which went out and was shipped to all the offices across the country, HR offices across the country. So that's something that innovation that I brought to that organization, which was very successful and very well received. I then formed a company called Electric Clay and a second one called Information Pyramid. And during that time, I did things like I got into multimedia and created a multimedia CD-ROM for Harrison Conference Centers, which was a way to visually walk through all their conference centers. And again, it was for its time, it was very innovative. People were kind of blown away by that technology. I also, with Information Pyramid, stayed in the database business and the information side, and worked on creating systems for people on the database side. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, I think it's on everybody's right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some other things. So during this time, all along in all of my career, all of my life, I've been creating. So not always software. So some of the things that I've built over the years was during, this was a big, this first thing here is a big, was a UFO. Inside it was a whole electronic control system and control boards and automated random sound clips coming out of it and lights blinking and neon lights all over the place. And that's it in the daytime, but at night it was all lit up. That was right around the time, right after 9/11. Just wanted to do something, get people's minds kind of out of the horror of all that. And so we had a big party and created this first thing. This is a 7-foot tall praying mantis that actually Tyler and I have created. Everything that a lot of things I built have had electronics in them. This had speakers and music and neon lights all over it. And, this is something called the Sonic Shuttle. Again, music, had a computer screen in it. And then over here we have the bottle rocket. The bottle rocket, we had an excess amount of water bottles in our house that we were constantly throwing away. And there's an artist soapbox derby up in New York that we participated in most years and created this out of water bottles, and a very unique steering and braking system. Tyler actually piloted that. The one thing we didn't really anticipate, which was unintended consequences, is that all those bottles in the middle of summer, that's a greenhouse. And as Tyler can attest, that got quite hot inside there. So when he got a chance to zoom down the hill, he did zoom down. So back to the business side. So then I sold Information Pyramid to a company called MMS. At the time, it was MMS Education. And I became their CIO and started building a series of software, something called MMS 2100, which was an accounts, a billing and CRM system, billing system used by Disney Education and a bunch of other companies. Build out millions and millions of dollars on that platform. Did a system called EdReach, which was used by Casio and others. Again, that was a CRM system built just for the education market. So it had a lot of unique properties to it that at the time, no other CRM could handle that. I later did something in Salesforce for Crayola, actually. Worked with Field to Play 60 and built their back-end infrastructure for a program that was in 70,000 schools across the country. And that was a very successful program that ran, and it was a partnership between the National Dairy Council, the NFL, and the USDA. Worked on something called FitnessGram and built a complete revamp of their system. It was in 1,500 school districts across the country. So I've always been creating, always building systems, but at the same time, always creating non-technical things or semi-technical things. So this was a big 20-something foot long dragon we did for a masquerade party. And right in the middle of the pandemic, I left MMS and created strategic database systems where that was in 2021. and I've been building systems for Jonathan and others, custom systems for different clients, people who are looking to get their sort of a digital version of what their vision is. So I've continued to do that work and continued to create. This is something called Bob the Map Pig. This is this over here is a phone booth for a company called Stacks in Doylestown. I don't know if anybody's from that area, but uh, it was a co-working space called Stacks. This is something else that was done for a business venture called Business Attractions. It was a big sort of a replica of a train car. So all along doing some of this creative work, doing this creative work. So you might say, that's weird. What does creating something like this have to do with creating something like this? This is a data structure from one of my systems, and with hundreds of different tables. Each one of these little boxes has got dozens of fields, and they all have in all these little lines are relationships. So there's a great complexity to building a system and all the interactions that you built. Um, how do you do that? Like, where does that come from? What's the visual, the visualization? What's that all about? So what does like doing something like this have to do with this? Where do your ideas come from? And the inspiration, where does that come from? Like it doesn't just you just think it up. What is it? What is it? What is this all about? And here's where I ask people to suspend disbelief for a minute. I want you to kind of just go on a journey with the concept that ideas don't come from us, they come through us. The idea is that if you are open to whether you want to call it source or universe or God, whatever you want to, sort of whatever your thought of is this sort of what's bigger than us, all of us. But the ideas are out there and they come through us. There are a lot of people that are supportive of that. Elizabeth Gilbert, great book, is called Big Magic. If you ever get a chance to, if you're interested in this subject, and she talks about it and says, ideas spend an eternity swirling around us, searching for an available and willing human partners to kind of carry out. So, and her idea is that these ideas are out there. They're just out there in the ether, so to speak, and they're just waiting for somebody to grab them and do something with them and make them and manifest them, make them real, materialize it. That's out there. Maya Angelou, you can't use up your creativity. There's more than you can imagine. It's all out there. Creativity or ideas come from an infinite source that never diminishes. The idea being that it's out there, that it's coming through us, not necessarily of us, it's coming through us. Stephen Pressfield, another great book, The War of Art, if you're into creativity. If you haven't read that, then it's definitely something you want to read. And he talks about inspiration coming from the muse. Going back to the Greeks and Romans, they talk about the genius and the muse that were your genius comes from is outside of you. It comes through you. It's not something that is part of you. It actually comes through you. And it's, our task is to kind of figure out how do we open ourselves up there. But he says it just hovers out of sight, waiting for us to be ready. Carl Jung, inspiration flows through a collective unconscious, connect us all to an eternal source of ideas. In other words, that source is out there. Those ideas are out there. So the concept being that these things are out there and we want to open ourselves up to be able to utilize this. So how do we open that door? We create. So the act of creating allows you to start to understand that process of something external kind of working through us. So it can be anything. I create these things, these out of, whatever found objects usually, right? But it can be sewing, acting, writing, embroidery, cooking, photography, making music, any kind of thing, collaging, origami, storytelling, crafting. It can be sports. It can be sports. I mean, anybody who plays tennis or any kind of a sport, like, um, that there's those times when you're just in the zone and it's just happening, right? You're not thinking about that next shot. It just, boom, it just happens. You hit one of the best shots ever. It's like you didn't think about it. You didn't plan that shot. You're not consciously thinking, oh, I'm going to take that shot. It just, you've practiced it and it becomes muscle memory and it just happens. If you like to write or if you doodle, you just like, where are these ideas? Let it come. Let those ideas flow through you. The idea is to kind of create in any way that works for you, because by doing that, you are starting to build that creative muscle, that door opening. You get into a habit of opening that door. And trust me, once you get into that habit, it's like it's available to you then for anything. So I'm going to pause for a second and I'm going to just kind of ask everybody to either raise their hand or write in. How do you create? What are ways that you guys are creating out there? Don't be shy.
I'll start.
Cooking?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Alan.
Okay. Um, first of all, I believe that science and art are two halves of the same coin. Because I, grew up with this love of science kind of thing, and that's what my undergraduate work was in. But I use creativity in thinking about, frameworks and solving problems or looking at all this stuff going on. How do I make sense of it? Right? So that's one piece. But then on the other piece is I work with polymer clay and seed beating. And with the polymer clay, I started a lot of work around surface design, which, lots of folks are now doing even more with it. But it started with a fascination. And it's always on either side, it's what's interesting me. What is my interest now? What's interesting to me right now? And how do I play that out?
excellent. And we've got a lot of other ones coming in on the message board: writing, poetry, sketching, watercolor, architecture, just thinking and envisioning. Love that, Christina. Painting, exploring, conversation, sailing. Lee, that's a great one. Repairing parts. Yep. It's that challenge, right? You're playing music. Molly, great. Photography, cooking, writing, and needlepoint. All great stuff. Music, dance, DIY projects, right? Using my own curiosity to connect the dots in unexpected ways. I love that, Kevin. Interior design, inventing, window treatments. These are all like we all have these things, right? We all have these outlets for creativity. And what we may not always understand is that by pursuing those, we're strengthening our ability. We're strengthening that creative muscle. And that is then available to you, business challenges, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're going from that to cooking, like you're going to cook better. You just are opening yourself up to this flow. Excellent. All right, I'm going to jump back into thank you for that. I'm going to jump back in again. Excellent. One of the most wonderful and maybe unexpected things of the act of creating is the flow state. And I don't know if you will know about the flow state. It was originally coined by this Hungarian psychologist. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name.
Mihaly
It's simple.
But, well, I'll leave it to you, and we're going to share these slides, so you'll be able to learn more about him. But he started talking about flow state. And the idea is flow state is a state in which people are so involved in the activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it even at great cost or for the sheer sake of doing it. I've never had it really be a great cost, but the idea is it's this place of being highly focused, where you're just sort of you're absorbed in what you're doing. It has it typically something you like to do. It's and it can be anything. Again, it can be artwork, but it could be sports. Just the same thing. You're in the flow. You're in the zone, right? You hear people talk about that. I'm in the zone. I'm in the flow. So the more that you create and find ways to create, the more you can kind of identify. Oh, wait, that's what they're talking about. I'm in that flow state. That's a sign when that flow state is happening. You're connecting. It's coming through you, right? It is not. You're not thinking about that. Let's say that shot. You're not thinking about that shot. You're not thinking about am I going to put red or green on it? It's just like, the color that's going to go on that watercolor. It just is coming through you. You have a picture and an image in your mind, and then you're just making that happen, right? You're just doing that. So understanding that what you can put in your mind, anything you can put in your mind in this sort of visioning side, you can make happen, and it can be anything. So flow state is an indicator that you're in the zone. You are streaming at that point. We're going to pause for a second and do a little bit of a visualization exercise here. So what I have is a little bag, and we're going to take a look at this. It's just spare parts from, I put together some cabinets, typical IKEA kind of a situation where you got an extra. So I either did something wrong or they gave me extras. I'm not sure, but it's all still standing. So that's a good sign. That's a good start. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pause this share. And if you can now make me the presenter, Jonathan, we're going to go down to here. There we go. If we can get a big screen, that'd be good. But if not, we're gonna look at this. So this is something that I do. I think the really important part of, from at least from my perspective, of this is going with a blank sheet of paper, right? And what I love to do is I take something like this and a bunch of little spare parts. I have a lot of these boxes of spare parts. But this is just something that recently came to me. And I start looking at these things, and what I think is the magic of all of this is that I will look at this and I'll see, like, something will come to me, it'll come through me. Like I'm not in my cortex, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to make this. I just look at this and I start to see things. Like I'm starting to see out of this, it's just, these are two things. So I see legs, right? I see two sets of legs here, right? And then I look here and I see, well, this is like a head. Like I don't have all the parts that I'm going to need for this, but I have a head and this is a tail. So I'm going to create a little creature out of this little head, these feet, tail. I've got some other things. Maybe I'm going to do some goofy eyes on there. Oops, goofy eyes on there. But from my perspective, this comes together almost instantly from a bunch of spare parts, right? That's because it's a practice. I practice this. And not a hard practice. It's an easy practice. I love doing it. It's fun. I like to take hot glue and put this all together, and then we create things like this, right? We create little creatures like this, guys like this, and things like this. This little, you saw this guy already. Something like this, right? These are all just I take apart old computers and junk and put them into boxes, and then I create little things out of them. I like to do this, but there's an aspect. This is important. When I go to build a system for Jonathan, I've already learned how to not anyway. But I've already sort of that practice of doing that creativity opens up. So if I go to design a new system, it is much easier because I've already worked on opening that flow, opening that door to where I can use my mind and visualize something very quickly. And so there's a practical application to that visualization piece that can be applied to your daily business, can be applied to business challenges. It's there. So what you're working on is building that, opening that door, building that practice, and allowing yourself the ability to kind of tap into this sort of universal energy out there, that's these ideas that are available to you. So we're going to jump back in here. So did anybody, before I go, let me stop for 1 second. Did anybody, when I laid those things out, did anybody see a picture in their mind of like, oh, that could be this or that? You did, Molly, you're shaking your head. Yes, excellent. Did anybody else? Claire's thinking, maybe I did, maybe. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right? It's that, yeah, go ahead, Christina.
I actually thought that those black screws would make wonderful horns.
Yes. All right,
Because
great.
they're already got that kind of twisty quality. And I'm sure there's something else that could be used as the tail, and or it's just tailless.
Yeah, it could be. If you have horns, you don't need a tail, really. It's like looking at clouds. Like everybody sees something different, but it's the whole thing of like what is coming to you. It's what is coming to you, coming through you. What's out there? Anybody else?
Kim?
Yeah, Kim.
When I was looking at those objects, all I wanted to do were take those little washers and trace them and make a drawing. So right away, I went into more of a drawing kind of thing
Awesome.
rather than like
Yeah.
a three-dimensional orientation, just to like, what could I create with that in repetition? So
Excellent. Like a template almost. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Robert.
I like the four-legged animal that you had. I kind of saw that as well, and saw maybe those washers as kind of their backbone or their spine, something that would connect the legs.
Excellent. I think one of the things that'll be a give back. I'll finish that up. I'm going to make something out of that, and I'll send a picture around for everybody. We'll see where that one goes. Excellent. All right. On with the show. Okay. So what are the characteristics of a flow state? They, complete focus and concentration. It does sort of consume you. You kind of almost get tunnel vision when you're in a flow state. You're really, the outside world sort of disappears. You're so hyper-focused on what you're doing. It is effortless. It becomes enjoyable. It's complete joy, and it's an effortless action. This is a thing. Intrinsic motivation. I just think that that goes without saying from my perspective. But yeah, of course, the activity is rewarding, of course, and it's Yeah, but the point there, this is not necessarily the outcome or the external world. I think that's important too. You're just like the act of doing is what you're enjoying at that time, because you're sinking into doing it, and just the act of creating it is, you're not thinking about the goal line at that point. You're just thinking about, I'm really enjoying this process, or I'm completely absorbed in this process, and in that is the next loss of self-consciousness. You are in that zone, right? Something could be happening on the side, and you're not really even aware of it, because you're just really fully absorbed in the present, which is important. You're fully in the present. They talk about here about the challenge and the skill balance. So in other words, you may be you're going to be doing something at a level, because it's flowing through you. You're upping your game. You're above your level. I use that tennis example. You're going to hit a shot that you like 9 out of 10 times you couldn't hit, but you're going to hit that perfect shot. I created this for somebody for a gift, and they were a crew person. So I just created this. This was out of, again, mostly found materials, some things I had. If I were to probably try to recreate that now, I don't know that I could, right? I was in the zone at that point. I was doing it. I just had an idea. I had a vision for this. I had the parts, but I had a vision for what this was going to look like. And it just, to me, it's one of those things that just came out really good. Now, here's a whole bunch of statements on, and we'll send this presentation around. I'm not going to read all of this stuff to you, but Dr. Michael Bernard Beckworth. Oh, I've done it. Okay, here we go. That is a guy who's did some work, a book, and I think it was a CD set on creative visioning, and it was done quite a while ago, but it's a pretty interesting thing, and he talks about the fourth stage of creative visualization, which is the fourth and final, where you're really feeling like it's happening through you. And that's, this same concept, this thing kind of coming through you, coming from the outside and coming through you. And you're not consciously trying to do something. It's just coming, it's just flowing. And you'll see this concept of this flow is, all sorts of people have sort of talked about it in different ways. And you can kind of read through some of these statements. Flow is that state you reach when you're completely absorbed, right? And lose all sense of time, and you're self-conscious. And time does go away, by the way. Kelly could probably attest to that. It does, and it's just part of the kind of amazingness of the whole thing. And to me, the ability to kind of look at that blank slate and have these images and these things come to me. I've done things where I've designed, just drawn something out on a piece of paper, a design for something, and it's just on pencil and paper. And to me, that process of going from the idea to maybe something on a piece of paper to creating it, when I write software, it's already written by the time I go to touch a computer. It's all done in my head. Like anything I'm working on, it's already figured out. Now it's just a matter of, and then, I think unlike is one area that writing software, doing something electronically, it's not like I'm building a car or something. It's so that line between your idea and the actual product is pretty small. To go from the idea in your mind to actually doing something, and I think that line gets blurrier and blurrier as we go, and who knows, we'll have a neural network in place that attaches to our brains, and we'll just think it, and it'll happen, come out on a 3D printer or something. I'm only saying that half jokingly, because all that technology is actually there. So that line is getting blurrier, but we as humans have this magnificent ability, and this is it's in our grasp to be able to do these kinds of things and really to dive into this. The practice. really doing this and opening up that door is part of that is a practice. It's a muscle, right? Chase Jarvis, Creative Calling, another great book for anybody who wants to learn more about this. Creativity isn't a talent, it's a habit. It's something you can train for, cultivate, and practice. Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. Creativity is a spiritual practice. It's not something we make up, it's something we access. So again, sort of getting to that thing of pulling it from the outside. Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, an amazing book for anybody who's wants to be a writer or been in the artistic world. It's a great book. The most important thing about art is to work. Nothing else matters except sitting down every day and trying. There is no failure at this. Doing it is success. So the act of doing it is success. There's no way you're not going to fail. You're doing it. You're enjoying it. That's all that needs to be done right there. So let's talk a little bit about bringing this kind of into more of a business context. So steps to implementing visualization in your business: set clear intentions, understand what you're trying, in your mind, what are you trying to achieve? What is the vision of that final thing that you're trying to achieve? What does that look like? The more you can kind of draw that picture in your head, the more accurate it's going to be and the more successful it will be. And you want to just sort of create that detailed mental picture. What does it look like? What does it feel like? This is newer to me, this kind of concept of the feelings and the emotions, and newer, I say, in the last 5 years, let's say. But like, what does it feel like? What does it feel like when you visualize this and you succeed, or what is it going to feel like? So that's an important part of really cementing that visualization in. Practice daily, incorporate this visualization into your morning routine or whatever you're doing. Like, get used to using that thinking, picturing, imaging, visualizing. And then if you can, a part of the daily practice, if you can do some kind of creative act that allows you to kind of go from that picture to creating something, you just start to get that channel working really well. And taking your action, you're gonna bring this thing to life, whatever that is. This Goethe quote, I mean, you've probably heard it. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never have otherwise occurred. Unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. I throw that in there because I think it's really important in terms of where are you trying to get to. I've seen this play out when I talked about going all the way back to my days at Deloitte, building that system. People helped me. Just came out of the woodwork and just were helping me figure out, how am I going to get this 9-track tape reader, or how do I get a 9-track tape into a PC? And there's a series of technologies that the accounting guys were using, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll show you how to do it. So it was sort of a backroom effort to kind of figure this all out. So it was definitely people the doors just opened up. And when you sort of visualize these things and you have a picture and you're committing to it, remember that as you commit to something or you commit to making it happen, things will clear out. They just do. It's another amazing part of this whole process. They just do. And the next thing you know, you're looking at like, wow, this just happened. Just some of the great thinkers and their thoughts on visualization. Napoleon Hill, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Visualize your goals daily as already accomplished. Shakti Gawain, creative visualization is a technique of using your imagination to create what you want in your life. Albert Einstein. Imagination is everything. It's the preview of life's coming attractions. So think about that. That's just so true and so powerful. If you can dream it, you can do it. Walt Disney. Everything you can imagine is real, Pablo Picasso. So it's like, if you can imagine it, it's real. It's the next thing is do. It's just execution at that point. And imagination is the best problem-solving tool we possess, Chase Jarvis. Begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey. Joe Dispenza, thoughts become things. You know, and that's certainly, we talk about that. You know, Molly's group, the manifestors, we talk about that, and how what our minds are these beautiful tools to kind of create and connect to the source and be able to visualize things. And if we can visualize it, we can make it happen. So kind of just in review, the universe is ready to give you ideas and inspiration. It's out there, right? You know, you think about big magic, that idea is floating out there, just looking for somebody for a host to take that idea and bring it to life. Suspend disbelief that, you know, and just get comfortable with the idea that these ideas are coming through you, not from us. The best stuff is gonna work its way through us. We can all find a way to create, and I think that was clear here today. Everybody's got ways to do it, and don't think I'm not creative. You could there's a million different ways, different channels you can be creative and create. The act of creating gets yourself into that flow state. The more you can do that, you can start to understand that, oh, this is the flow state. This is what Pierce is talking about. I feel good. This is great. And then you're using that. That's your doorway. That's the gateway to all this limitless source of ideas and potential out there. And then you want to practice that. So when you figure out what that is, you want to practice that. Make it second nature, so that when you want to call on it, it's not like you have to work real hard at it. It's there. You know how to open that door and get there. And you just understand the power and the magic of all this. Like, how does this happen? Like, I can just think of something and I can draw a little picture, and then I can build a shed or whatever it's going to be. Or I can make a little creature come to life. You know, that it's just, and then enjoy that process. Have fun, right? And then just sit back and just at the wonder of it all, because it's a wonderful, amazing thing that's available to us as humans. One little final thought. AI is coming, and what, you know, there's an imperative there that we exercise our creativity, that if you're doing something in a rote way and you're not being creative and you're not thinking creatively, then it's going to be it's a sketchy situation in the future that can you be replicated if you're just doing bing, 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 bing. But if you're thinking creatively and you're bringing new ideas and marketing and everything that you're doing, new ways of doing things, new ways of combining things, and using AI as, you know, an assistant to you as the director of all this stuff. You know, how can you be creative? The idea of tapping into your creativity, finding creative outlets for yourself that may be apart from your business side, but keep building that muscle, right? So that you can tap into your creativity, fueling innovation. By the way, AI gave me this answer. So AI is behind me on this, right? You know, so it's all good, but it's something to keep in mind that, like, we have the imperative is there that you're thinking creatively, that you're able to use and tap into this power. So I want to thank everybody. This is my contact information. Tyler has started this digital sprint studio. We're working together. We can do all sorts of things. Obviously system design, but workflow automation, a lot of really exciting things that Tyler's doing that we're working on together, tying the databases into really workflows and multiple different platforms, bringing things around, automating all of that to give you more time to be thoughtful and be creative, as well as websites and all that jazz. So if you ever, certainly I'm always available to talk about anything, any ideas you want to think about, or certainly any of this. I love this subject of creativity and creating. So I'm always open to have a conversation on this as well. So any of those things, my door is always open. So we're going to stop here and see if we've got some questions
Yeah. Oh. So you
or
can raise your
thoughts,
hand.
thoughts or questions or examples of where you see, you know, where you see these things create, where do they connect for you? Go ahead, Lee.
So Pierce, thanks for doing this. I always appreciate getting new words for ideas that have been banging around in my head that I haven't been able to express, and you give me some openings to that. What you were talking about with flow and at the tail end with creativity, the journey I experienced was wanting to put something over my bed, a 3D image. I didn't want to put a poster up or other. And I figured if I could draw it, I'd be able to build it. And then I tried to draw it, and that pencil just wasn't enough to get the look or feel or my ability to sketch what was in my mind. Over time, I came to appreciate the what's in my mind and what I'm able to put on paper or express or to bring in this world, there's a gap. And sometimes that requires my developing some skill in being able to form what's there. I've since learned that I'm a abstract painter, or I enjoy abstract painting, but I spend time doing realistic painting to develop my hand and eye coordination and my color sense that frees me up to express in an abstract arena. And I didn't expect that connection. So this idea of being creative and something you have to practice, sometimes you have to get specific with a tool or a skill to open up and get to that next depth or to go on to that next image. And so that was the train of thoughts that you opened up for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chase Jarvis, that's a big part of what he talks about is kind of like, you know, honing your craft. And what does that take to do that? Because you know, the concept of 10,000 hours, like what is it, how do you get there? And then once you have that, then it becomes a tool set. Yeah, I love that. Patty.
Yeah, so just thinking about a project that my partner Dave is very creative, and he's very DIY. Sometimes, a lot of times it's good. Sometimes maybe not so much, but he's good. So we had this thought for this side property. We have a piece of property on the side of the house, and we have the lake in front of us, and it's just a really pretty spot. But it's just grass going down a little hill, and he'd been talking about a fire pit. And so I was like, yeah, all right, another project. Here we go. And so he, little by little, I saw stuff starting to happen out there, including going to the neighbor who was doing some big construction thing, and him going to the landscapers, can you please bring all those rocks over to my property? And I'm like, oh no. But I started watching this thing unfold, which was in his head. And then I started to participate, which was really fun because then the plantings came, and the chairs, and we built the fire pit. And, you know, and so each thing that we did kind of led to the next, because I had this post fence idea exactly, you know, just to sort of cordon off part of it. It's because the back part is on the main road. And so we put up a post fence a couple of weeks ago, and yesterday we stained the post fence, and it's so exciting. I mean, it really is like all we need is a tiki bar now.
I love it. So like you said, I had this post fence idea in my head, right? And Dave had this image in his head. So we start with these images, they start with this visualization. To me, that's the most magical thing in the world. Is like you have this thing in your head, and then all of a sudden it's done, and it looks typically like what you had in your head, you know. And it's just like this like, wow, the fact that we can do that is like one of the most magical, wonderful things about being a human being.
Yes.
That's cool.
Matt?
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for hosting this gathering. And Pierce, was wonderful. It was wonderful to learn. I loved the activity, because it really gets people embracing and igniting their own sense of flow.
Mhm.
The concept of flow from Mihaela Csikszentmihalyi is the fourth needed piece for workplaces where people feel like they belong. And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be like the ethereal, athlete that's in the zone. And flow can really be created out of the mundane. It can really be created out of flipping what you do and really looking at the rituals with that mindset that you were describing. And so the creative area that I dabble in is creating assessments that measure that elusive state of flow and get people thinking about it differently and recording it and then reinforcing that behavior. It was really timely and wonderful. I wanted to say thank you for what you were sharing.
Most welcome.
Yeah, you guys should talk. I wanted to say something. From a business point of view and based on my experience, it's the creative process that starts every practice, every business that's ever existed. And if you can maintain that creativity and continue to do the things that helped you make something out of thin air, turn a thought into matter, and continue to do that. And that's kind of what gets in the way, is that you get entrenched in your business and you get away from the creative work that you did in the beginning that helped grow it and make it what it is. And so we have to be keenly aware to get ourselves back to that and try and, delegate the stuff that AI can do,
Mhm.
and that's what will continue to make our businesses needed and valuable to others because we thought of it.
The other
Exactly.
that off of that, Jonathan, that whole idea of I got to be careful what I'm thinking because I'm going to bring that forward. We just don't bring forward the good shit. So that was a thought that came to mind.
It's very true.
It's better to be in conscious creation than unconscious creation. Sometimes that's where things get a little screwy.
One other thing that I think helps so much is this, and having people that you can bounce ideas off of. You get going on something and you have this, sometimes you feel stuck on a path, like, okay, this felt really good and now my momentum is slowing. If you can ask other people that, and there was an idea that I came up with the other day, and someone gave me a brilliant way to kind of execute on it. That was like, I never would have thought of that, but it helped fuel, the momentum to keep it
I'll add
going.
to that, Jonathan and Patty, the idea of co-creating your space outside. This is a lot of us are independent, but a lot of what we do sometimes is better served as a team sport. Having conversations, bouncing ideas, building on ideas, it really helps fuel the creative process.
Yeah, it really does. So Pierce, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is amazing. For everyone that's not a Collaborex member, we welcome you to experience our community and experience, the amount of incredible knowledge and enthusiasm that all our members have. And maybe people will join and do their own workshop and provide value to the community. So we welcome everyone to experience what we're about. And Pierce is such a great example of that. And So thank you so much, Pierce. And thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. It was
Thanks,
great.
Pierce.
Yes.
Welcome. My pleasure.